have the Rajashri background, I'm going to
Yeah.
do a little fill in the blank game with you, okay? And
Okay.
and I know you will do it. So it goes like this. दिल की जो बातें जो दिल की है.
दिल ही में रखना पिया.
लब तो ना खोलूं मैं खोलूं ना लपटों पर.
आंखों ने सब कह दिया. पीयू
पिया
बोले.
पिया बोले क्या ये बोले जानो ना. With that, I will hand it over to Manish.
Thank you, my fellow Chemurite.
Thank you, thank you. Manish, go ahead, make our day.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, KG. And Vidya, that was our poor man's Kishore Kumar of Tech Mahindra. So we
Really, he sings well.
always rely on KG for that. So Privil, Amrita, KG, thank you so much. I think you are today creating history, making a day for not just me, but thousands of tech mighties across the world who, ever since you all confirmed that Vidya is going to show up and we will have a chat with her on a variety of different topics, I can tell you that the number of messages that I have received, I wish in our sales program we can use this teaser all the time. I will receive a response promptly from everybody.
Hi, Manish.
Thank you so much, Vidya, for joining us. Thank you so much.
My pleasure entirely, and thank you for that wonderful welcome by Privil, Amrita, of course, my fellow Chemburite, KG sir, and you.
Thank you, Vidya. So I think we have a very short window of about 58 minutes. You are, to say that you are busy is the understatement of the century. So we'll keep it going. We would love for you to share your perspectives with us. I will do, and if I speak too much, I'm sure by tomorrow morning I will be in deep trouble within the company. So I'm going to speak very little. I'm going to ask you a few leading questions and would just try and get your perspective on this.
Sure.
Yeah, to take off, the first thing that really is bothering the world right now is the kind of times we live in.
Yeah.
Very abnormal time. People are constantly asking, what next? Right? And, on the health, on the human, on economy, on the industry, your industry that you are an expert at, everything has gotten impacted. So kick it off, I would just like to ask you a very broad question. Just share your perspective on what are you thinking these days? What are you worried about? What are you optimistic about? Anything, just take it away. It's a very, very broad question.
I know these are tough and trying times for everyone. There's so much uncertainty around, but I think this is a perfect time. I find great solace in giving gratitude for the blessings in my life, for the safety and good health of my loved ones, and just counting blessings every day, as an exercise at the end of every day. I think of the things that I need to be grateful for. And I think that that exercise of gratitude actually changes your perspective. You realize that there's much more to be grateful for than to be worried about. Of course, there are so many concerns, health concerns, like you said, economy, industry, and no one has the answers because this is an unprecedented situation. And, I know these conversations are doing the round and within every family on Zoom calls, on work calls, everyone is wondering where the world is headed. And I think there's no point in thinking about that. I think in my personal experience, I think just being present in the moment is the only solution to anything. Because we can keep wondering, we can keep worrying, but who knows what is to happen? In the middle of all this, it's not just COVID. There are so many natural calamities that have happened in the world. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of hate. There's warlike situations that have broken out, and everything only causes anxiety. So I think the best thing to do is to count your blessings. I don't mean to be preachy, please don't get me wrong, but I think this works for me, which is why I'm sharing it with you. That's the only way. And I'm someone who prays a lot. So that gives me, and my prayer is basically to say thank you. It's been like that for almost 15 years now. And that has held me in good stead. So, it immediately takes the weight off your shoulders. It immediately makes you feel lighter. And I almost feel like I can breathe better when I do that. So maybe if anyone wants to try that, if you're not already doing it, please try it.
Fantastic, Vidya. No, thank you so much. Very well said. I mean, clearly, when you cannot do anything, you can pray and you can remain calm and wait. I think waiting is not that bad sometimes. Right?
Yeah, absolutely.
If I can maybe go a little personal, go back to your early start of your career.
Yeah, of course.
I hope I read it well, but is it true that in the early part of your career, you did not get success from the first 12 or 13 movies in down south in Malayalam and others? And they say that har baat jeet hai. We speak about resilience in times of COVID. What was your resilience like? What got you through from that?
I think that hunger. I'd done one Malayalam film, my very first film. I shot for it and then it got shelved. But before it got shelved, I had already been verbally signed on for a whole lot of films. When this film got shelved, I got unceremoniously replaced in all those films. And that was very heartbreaking because I didn't know what wrong I had done. But I think even then it was just this hunger. There were times when I'd go to sleep crying. But the next morning I'd wake up and say, okay, let me give it one more day. The previous night I would have felt like giving up. And the next morning I would feel like, okay, I'll try for one more day. Let's see what happens. If something happens, great. Otherwise, I'll give it up. So I think I'm relentless. I am an optimist. Of course, there are times when, there are loads of times when I go through doubts and, insecurities and questions and all of that. But overall, I think I tend to see the glass half full rather than half empty.
Awesome. That's brilliant. That's phenomenal. I think clearly, yeah.
Yeah, and it was very tough because I hadn't had it's almost like the carrot had been dangled and had been, taken away. So that was even tougher. And my parents were saying, do you want to consider doing something else? I was also asking myself, maybe I'm not made for this. But then I think I would just tell myself, it's okay, maybe it's going to take longer, but maybe it'll work out. And I think I've seen so many people around me, not just in my industry, but in life generally, the people who don't necessarily look at failure as the end of the road are the people who actually go on to do, what they want to do in life. And I think when you do what you want to do in life, that is what success is to me.
Oh, brilliant. Yeah. As they say, when you're driving a car, don't just see the edge of the car, but see the road ahead.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But then a very phenomenal thing happened in your career, Hum Paanch.
Yeah.
Right? I at least received about 6 or 7 different messages saying, please ask Vidya if you can. How was that moment? How did that happen? What was her reaction? Because somewhere we probably also read that when Ms. Ekta Kapoor called you, your reaction was not exactly that of, ooh, exhilaration or something else. So what was it like? Was it the issue about self-belief? Was it about saying, what was going through?
No, I think it was not maybe it was self-belief, but it was also not wanting to be vulnerable in front of someone I did not know. Because my parents were obviously worried. We come from a non-film family. And we've had nothing to do with the arts per se. Of course, every South Indian learns music and dance, but that's the extension of, our involvement in the arts. So they were like really worried. I had already done one television. This is, by the way, before the South films happened. Hampanch happened before that. So I had already done one TV show which didn't air, and then Hampanch happened for me. So when I had gone to Ekta's office, because when my first TV show didn't take off, there were a whole lot of actors who had come from Delhi to act in that particular show, and Ekta was starting a daily soap. So she called all of us for an audition, and I auditioned for it, and she liked me for Hampanch. So I was not even expecting it. So when I went there, I went with my sister, and she said, I just wanted to tell you that I saw your test. It was very good, and I like you to play one of the characters in Hampanch. And I should have been jumping because this was a show I watched regularly. I remember this was the one show that my mom watched and said, if you got something like this, it would be great. So actually, from her mouth to God's ears, it had worked. The magic had happened. But I didn't want Ekta to see what it meant to me, because I thought if she saw what it meant to me, I would be putting myself in a vulnerable position. So I think I was always very guarded in my reactions with people. I didn't want them to know how passionately I wanted to act, because I was scared that maybe then, I would be letting myself open to some form of exploitation. So I think I just said, oh, thank you very much. And she said, anyone else in your place would have been jumping. And I said, I take everything with a pinch of salt.
Pinch of salt. Well, like we took it with a pinch of salt when somebody said Vidya is coming on the show. I said, not happening. So, we spoke about your early days, and of course, the advice that you follow, and clearly something that I'm sure my colleagues across the company will be very well served if we look at hunger, look at resilience, look at calmness, prayers. All of those are important. But then all of that can get you started, can't make you continue to succeed. And your success is iconic. Your success with the kind of movies and the roles that you have portrayed are inspirational to actors, inspirational to women, inspirational to moviegoers, and I can just gush about all of them right now.
Thank you.
I think if you could tell us, because something that we often lose sight of in a smaller way, the little things that we do at Tech Mahindra, we also lose sight of this, which is the preparation. Right? Before you execute, you prepare. If you could tell us, you can pick any one role of yours, whether it was the Dirty Picture or Parinita, because we heard if I have read correctly, you've done some crazy preparation for the Parinita role. So tell us a little bit about that.
There are all sorts of numbers doing the rounds about the number of auditions I went through for Parinita. Some say 17, some say 40, some say 75, and all of that is news to me. None of that is true. Yes, I did audition a number of times, but it wasn't that many times. The important thing is that it felt like never ending, because I desperately wanted this film to happen. Pradeep Sarkar, my director, had great faith in me. But when Vinod Chopra came on board to produce the film, he wanted a well-established star. So I had to prove my credentials. This would have been the perfect break for me if it happened. So I think my preparation was, of course, one, following a very strict regimen in terms of exercise and healthy food, but also in terms of just watching a lot of films. Dada would make me, Pradeep Sarkar would make me watch films and then would discuss performances with me. And I remember I also had a wellness coach at that time, Lubna Adams, who actually, I have a slightly bindas walk. So Dada wanted me to walk in a very dainty fashion. And she's actually a fashion choreographer. So she trained me to walk, and I must admit to you that that walk lasted only up to the end of Parinita. Then I went back to my old ways. But it was generally, I think, for the role in Parinita, for any role, to know the script, um, really well, like the back of your hand, is very important. And to know the character. So, the Parinita was very early days, but I can tell you, for example, everyone asks me about The Dirty Picture, because The Dirty Picture is a film where I played a character that is far removed from my personality. So for that, I had to do a lot of mental preparation. I did a lot of dancing sessions also, where the choreographer would make me dance in front of the mirror. And she would say, you have to get comfortable with really doing the kind of dance moves that I had never imagined I would end up doing. But she would tell me, until you get comfortable with that, if or rather, if you don't get comfortable with that, you'll be compromising the character. Because she was really bold and brazen. Then I would keep asking Milan Luthria, my director, questions. And to every question that I asked him, he had just one answer. He would tell me, if you accept her without judgment, people will respect her. And I would be like, how can that be the answer to every question I ask him? Anything to do with personality, character trait, and that's what he would tell me. So he used to tell me, you have to be free here. And, I kept having these conversations with him, and I was doing these dance sessions. But what actually happened is, I think it took me a day or two. And by the third day, we started with shooting the song Ooh La La. And by the third day, I realized that I was completely uninhibited. And I was uninhibited because I wasn't judging her for the clothes she wore or for the choices she made. But that's a slow process. So my point is that preparation requires sometimes learning new skills. Like in a film called Bobby Jasus, I had to learn the Hyderabadi accent. And otherwise, if there are any skills to be picked up for a film called Guru, I learned to use the wheelchair, because Mani Ratnam had actually told me that he wanted to do a sort of a dance in the wheelchair, which didn't end up happening. But so that on set, I'm not wasting time getting a hang of the dialogues or trying to understand why this character is doing what she's doing. I think that preparation is important, because then I'm only focusing on getting the emotion right.
Wow. Look, I'm sure the audience is listening in and trying to translate your words of wisdom into our little lives of how we need to prepare. I can tell you, we don't do many of these things that you are saying in terms of preparing.
No, but I guess your jobs require you all to do a different kind of preparation, and I'm sure, considering y'all are one of the top 10 organizations in the country, I'm sure you'll do enough and more due diligence.
Yeah, no. On a lighter side, our problem is we try and be like you, which we cannot be, and that's where we are in the wrong business ourselves. But on a serious note, taking this converse, this is fascinating, Vidya. Thank you so much for that insight. And by the way, I want to bow you.
Oh my God, thank you.
Amazing Dirty Picture role. You did shock the world, and you did create, quite a path-breaking cult moment in the industry at the time. Everyone who's listening, everyone across the world was very, very shocked and impressed and inspired with what you.
Thank you. Thank you.
And the other movie that, of course, clearly was much loved and everybody liked was Kahani.
Yeah.
So you could tell a little bit about that, but also one thing that we do in the company and in this industry is we also tell stories. Of course, we tell not always fictional stories. We have to tell factual stories about how what goes in the art of storytelling. I mean, why is it that only a handful of stories become successful and appeal to people, while the others not? And by the way, it happens to us as well. If we do 100 things, only 3 or 4 of those do strike a chord. The others just go in the waste basket. So,
I haven't been able to find the answer to this question, honestly. But I feel, when I think of the films that have worked, both my own and others' films, I realized that when you're telling a story unapologetically, when you're telling a story in its most authentic form, it always works. So, for example, you watch an Amar Akbar Anthony and you see how, it literally requires you to take a leap of faith in at various points in the story, because um, it's almost unbelievable. But you buy into that because the director had complete conviction in what he was doing. He didn't question himself and say, "Oh, what are people going to say? That how can her head hit a rock and how can she get her eyesight back?" At the same time, Phil, since you brought up Kahani, I remember when Shujoy first told me, he gave me, Shujoy is the director of the film, he gave me a one line of the story and he said, it's about a woman who's looking, a pregnant woman who's walking the streets of Calcutta looking for her husband who's gone missing. And at the end of it, you realize she's not pregnant. And I was like, wow, that, see, it could have gone either way, but it seemed so exciting and there was enough logic behind it. And at the same time, it was, um, at the end of it, it all adds up, except that you've not seen it in that way because of how smartly and shrewdly he's made you see what he wants you to see and what he wants you to believe. But I think that just got me excited. We were both completely convinced during the making of it. And therefore, even though it was such a small film, it went on to do so well and give us so much love to this date. It's been 8 years since its release and you're still mentioning it.
I think it was by far one of my favorite movies. And you said something which I'm going to take it away. I'm going to repeat it for my friends. Telling a good story is, of course, you don't know how to, what exactly are the real game-changing things. But you said something important, which I think can be emulated and repeated, which is the wow part of the story has to be told at the perfect time. In this case, that you were not pregnant in the movie came at the very end. I'm sure everybody was like, "Oh my God, that is stunning." So clearly, has to be. That's my takeaway from what you did.
Right, and I guess the conviction to realize that there are no rules to success. I remember when Shujoy was wanting to make this film, it really took a lot for us to get the funding to make this film. But that did not deter him. That did not make him question the choices he had made in the script. He just stuck with it. And we got funding just a few days, a few weeks before we went into shoot. So I think it's about believing that there is no one route to success. There is no one way to tell a story. There is no one way to live a life.
Super. Awesome. No, fantastic. You spoke about Amar Akbar Anthony, and that reminds me of two things. One, we have a little Sholay gang within the company. We have a Viru, we have a Thakur, we have a Mausi, we of course have a Jay. I would love for you to say hi to the Sholay gang.
Hi to the Sholay gang.
I earned my rights. This was me earning my right to remain in that group with him.
So are you all big Sholay fans?
We are huge. We have probably maybe about 100 Sholay groups in the company. I'm sure somewhere. A massive.
Really? My God, it's incredible, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that reminds me something that Mr. Bachchan once said, that a character smiles, laughs, cries, and goes through so many emotions that when at times the real life situation happens, it can leave you or leave one a bit blank and lost.
Yeah.
The question is, how do you train yourself to separate yourself? Because, somebody does, and I'm not saying with any level of non-seriousness, but somebody does the masala roles only, is one thing. But the very, very intricate, very powerful, very complex roles that you have portrayed, I don't know how did you you still laugh, and everybody knows that Vidya can laugh, Vidya can talk. So how do you separate? How do you find the balance between the two?
I had realized that if I'm tired, physically, emotionally, I'm unable to respond both on set and in my personal life. But when I'm feeling healthy in every way, because sometimes we work relentlessly and it just leaves you feeling exhausted, especially at the end of a promotional tour for a film. At those times, sometimes you do wonder. Sometimes I'm crying for the wrong reasons, and sometimes when something serious happens, also you just don't have the energy to react. But I think at in those times when I feel the healthiest, when I've slept well, eaten well, when I'm rested, then I think all my faculties work beautifully. And I don't think I've ever found it difficult to separate my work from my personal life. I think on set, of course, I'm playing a character. The emotions are, of course, mine that I'm drawing from. Like I said, a lot of preparation goes into that, but finally, it's what you deliver on set that really matters. So there is a certain amount of pressure. There is sometimes stress. There is sometimes relief. But when I leave the set, I try and leave my work there. I try, which early on in the character I couldn't do, but over the years with experience, I've learned to do. When I come back home, I just disconnect from what I'm doing. So I also take breaks in between films. So I don't do one film after the other so that I'm able to emotionally recharge myself. So that I don't question myself when I'm reacting or not reacting in a personal situation. I know I'm being authentic and, the actor part of me is not kicked in.
Fantastic. Oh, that's great, Vidya. Thank you. I think if we can move on to maybe from where we are in the time of in this journey with the pandemic um, changing so many things, the future of the industry, if we can spend some time on that. Let's talk about the fact that, and look at your career. You started with Hampach, then of course went on to these massive blockbuster movies, and where we are all yet again consuming all our entertainment content is on the small screen, relatively smaller screen, sometimes very, very tiny screens.
Yeah.
How do you see this evolving? Do you see a pattern here, or do you think this is an aberration? People will still go back and throng to the movie theaters, and that's going to continue to remain the way it is? Or we are in a new normal, a next normal, as we like to call it in technology?
No, I think, again, no one has the answers. But I think we're all trying to adapt to our new normal, so to speak. At this point, we know that going into a theater may not be so feasible and practical. And therefore, it's great that we have, platforms, the OTT platforms, where we can release our movies, other content, so that they can be watched by people. Because for example, I've just done Shakuntala Devi, which is releasing on Amazon Prime Video on the 31st of July. That was ready for release for the 8th of May. So, we couldn't have held on to the film for much longer because it's also mounting interest cost on a ready-made, on a film that's ready to release. So I think we had to make a very practical, we had to make a practical decision and say, okay, within the given circumstances, this is the best possible. And I think the great thing about being on an OTT platform is that it's accessible to people across the world in their homes. So you don't even have to go to a theater. But I don't think we're going to be, able to, and I don't think we want to do away with the theater experience either. That community experience is special. That is, you want to go there, sit in the darkness of the theater. It's almost sometimes a cathartic experience. You're having popcorn or your samosa and your coffee, and watching with some strangers, experiencing the same emotions. That is a different kind of experience that can never be, replaced by anything else. So I think the OTT platform offers you a more intimate experience, which is why your content is also more varied, and it can be maybe a slightly bolder in terms of subject and treatment and the telling and all of that. But I think the theater experience is here to stay. Even in the 80s, I remember with the video revolution, there was a time when we all had the VHS at home. We were watching all films on video, but at some point in the 90s, we started going back to the theater. So even if there's a lull for a while, I wish there isn't, because it's a huge, it would mean that lots and lots of lives and livelihoods get impacted. But I'm glad that we're at least able to move forward in this situation through the OTT.
Absolutely. So let's talk about Shakuntala Devi for a few minutes. I think that's the world is waiting to watch you on. You said 31st July.
Yes.
Right, on Prime. I think I know where I am on 31st July. Absolutely.
Wow. Thank you.
It's such a famous, such a path-breaking personality. Just to share the impact that this morning I was talking to somebody who was from Spain, and I was saying that, hey, I'm going to be just so excited about interviewing Vidya. He was, of course, not aware of the Bollywood movies at all. But as soon as I said that she's coming up with a movie, or Shakuntala Devi, he promptly knew it, and he said, "Oh, wow, that's exciting. Let me Google it up." So the word of Shakuntala Devi, of course, has spanned across the world. So mathematician, her world tours, the fact that she was mentioned in the Guinness Book of World Records. How was it for you to get into the shoes of Shakuntala Devi? If you could give us a little insight into that.
It was incredible. It was daunting. It was intimidating. And at the end of it, it was fulfilling. But she's the most complex and complicated woman I have played on screen so far. Because can you imagine being a world-renowned mathematician, being known as a human computer, getting an entry into the Guinness Book of World Records, just writing a book on homosexuality, being an astrologer, doing consultations all over the world, writing books. What is it that she's not done? So it was so much to do. And yet, while all these achievements were very, very, that's the bit that we know about her. That's the larger than life part of Shakuntala. In the film, of course, we also delve into her personal life, which I guess if you call this a biopic, that's very, very critical. So, to know what kind of woman is a genius? What kind of mother is a genius? What kind of wife or what kind of daughter is a genius? To really find my way through those questions was very enriching for me. I had the good fortune of having long chats with her daughter and son-in-law, and they gave me a lot of information, and that was very, very helpful, because there's not much information available online about her. There are a few shows, there are a few interviews and articles, but that's it. So I think that part she was a feminist way ahead of her time, when people didn't even know how to spell feminism in India. She lived her life on her own terms, had a wicked sense of humor. And for a woman, to have a voice and a sense of humor, really something. Yeah.
Is that, and I have a question in the chat room from Vrinda, who's, by the way, one of the Sholay gang members.
Oh, hi, Vrinda.
Vrinda, you can speak, but is Vrinda able to speak? Sorry?
Hey, hi, Vidya.
Hi.
Vrinda, why don't you?
Hi. Okay, Okay, and let me also introduce myself. I am the Mossy from the Sholay gang. Okay, so
Oh,
hi.
okay.
Yeah.
Hi.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Lots and lots of questions. So first, quick question around the math part. You played
Yeah.
Shakuntala Devi, but were you good in maths in school?
I actually was. I'm nowhere close to Shakuntala Devi, but for a regular student, I actually enjoyed maths. So I did fairly well in maths. It's not like I got 100 out of 100, but I did, I was some, at least in the late 80s or 90s out of 100. So I enjoyed maths. But what this film actually did was it rekindled my love for numbers because I was someone who very easily learned phone numbers. I would add up vehicle numbers all the time just for fun. You know, um, I would just remember dates very easily. And I'd forgotten all that because today we do everything on our phones. You don't really have to, you feed in the number and it doesn't register. But this film helped me rekindle my love for numbers.
Awesome, awesome. Okay, I have one last question. I have lots of
Yeah,
questions, but I'll
sure.
just keep it quick.
Sure, sure.
Dhun Badal Ke, sorry, to Dekho was a radio show you hosted, right? So
Yeah,
how
yeah.
much has Vidya Balan changed her Dhun over the years?
I think I'm constantly changing my mood.
That's so cool. That's great.
Like I just I feel I'm someone who tries to adapt to the world around me, all the time. So I don't change myself, but I think we have to adapt to the changes in our lives, in the world all the time. And even though I struggle with it sometimes, I'm constantly trying to change my tone.
May you constantly change your Dhun, but may you constantly remain the same as well. Thank you so much,
Thank
Vidya.
you. Thank you,
Delight talking
Vrinda.
to
Thank you,
you.
Mossy.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. If you touched a point during your previous, when you described the very versatile, that she had a voice, that is
Yeah.
Shakuntala Devi. But one thing you touched upon was that she wrote and authored this book called The World of Homosexuals.
Yes.
At TechM, of course, we have several initiatives and believe in the diversity and inclusion,
Yeah.
so that we have a seamless, immersive experience across our employees. But how important is diversity and the voice of women to you? We know that we've read and we've understood. In fact, I believe that you and Shakuntala Devi probably go hand in hand because your personalities are very similar at one level.
Wow. Thank you.
But
No,
what do you think about this generally in the industry? It's not easy.
I think you're right in the fact that we share a similarity because she never understood the difference between men and women, why men could do certain things and women couldn't. She saw herself as a person first, as an individual first, before she saw herself as a woman, which is why I think there were no limits. There were, she never saw the glass ceiling. And I've pretty much been like that because I was brought up in an environment where we were given every freedom. We are only two girls. My parents, my sister, and me. My sister is 4 years older than me. She's in advertising. And we were told you can do whatever you want to do. Of course, they were worried when I was going to join films because it was a big, bad world of films. That's another story. But I'm saying they always told us do whatever you do to the best of your abilities. They didn't tell us that, you have to be a certain way. You have to, laugh softly or not. I know some people, I have friends who've been brought up in, um, or rather whose families have taught them that you should be seen and not heard.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I've never understood that. So I think it's very important for everyone to, this has been my biggest learning, Manish, as an actor, and therefore the stardom or the fame that has afforded me has taught me as a public figure. The biggest lesson I've learned is that you have to accept yourself for the world to accept you. So whatever body size, whatever skin color, whatever your gender or sexuality, whatever your achievements. I think if you accept yourself, you'll realize that, everything begins to fall into place for you without even effort.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But if I can ask you one more question, and I
Sure,
hope
sure.
I'm not testing the limits on this issue, but
No, not at all.
but it bothers us as well across the world, and in our industry, and of course in film industry also. I'm sure it is an issue. Is the women and film industry? How do you help people cope with the extremists, with and ensure that? And this is, by the way, a question from Pooja, who's asking
Hi,
you
Pooja.
that women and film industry, how do you cope with extremists and keep serenity with it within that?
I actually, I have a little story to share. I'm not a very good storyteller, so please bear with me. But there's a competition between frogs. Basically, all the frogs have to climb up a slippery well.
Mhm.
And, there are many frogs who participate. And as each one of them is climbing, there are other frogs who are cheering them from atop the well. But slowly, one by one, all the frogs give up. Someone's lost focus, someone got distracted, someone just slipped down. But there's one frog that makes it to the top. And when that frog makes it to the top, he's asked, how come, please tell us, what is the secret to your success? And he gives no answer. So they repeat the question and they all say, come on, tell us, how did you not slip? How did you not fall? And there's no answer. Guess why? Because the frog is deaf. So the only reason the frog made it to the top, because he was deaf to what everyone else had to say. The only voice that has to mean anything to you should be your own voice. This is a very precious lesson, again, that I've learned being an actor. Because, we are being judged all the time. We're being told what to do, what not to do. People have an opinion on everything from our nail paint color to, our bodies, to our performances, to our personal lives. So I've realized that the only voice I must pay heed to is my own, and which is why whenever I seem to be losing track, I remember the story of the frog, the deaf frog, and I try and be the deaf frog. So I think that's the only way to respond to extremists. Turn a deaf ear to them. And don't try to convince them otherwise. You go on living your dream. You go on to do what you have to do. There may be no supporters. It might be a lonely journey. But once you've done what you want to do, anyway, everyone will follow you. Because success has many fathers.
I hope, Vidya, you have a lot of time on your calendar next few weeks, because based on what you just said, I wouldn't be surprised if our CEO, CP, or KG, who is responsible to train some of our slow people, might call you, because they keep telling us that don't hear anybody else's voice, hear your own. I don't think so. So that's a great lesson.
I'll happily join you all again.
Thank you so much. So I think I have got some stunning questions from the audience. Why don't I maybe bring another member of our Sholay gang? Jagdish, are you on? I think you have a specific question. Vidya Bagchi, why don't you ask?
And he claimed my question was boring, so I'm waiting to hear what his question is.
Hi,
Jagdish.
Hi. I'm the, as you can tell from my dark long hair, I'm the Viru in this gang.
Oh my God.
Yeah. It's just,
where's your Basanti?
Yeah, well, we'll talk about it outside. So, first of all, I have to tell you, Manish and me were very good friends till this evening, till he took over the chance to interview and took me out. And this has not gone down very well. And I, to being a bong, have to call you Bidda, because
Yes.
so Vidya Bachi's character and your love for Calcutta is one question, and then I have 300 others till 9 o'clock tonight. That's one, and the second one is you as a actor. You get so immersed into each of these characters, and then we talk about our roles in technology today, where we got to be learning and unlearning faster. Today there is AI, there is tomorrow blockchain, and there is some other technology, and so on and so forth. What is the process? So, two questions. One is slightly more bong-oriented Kolkata love, and the second is a little more, company-oriented learning and unlearning. Thank you.
Right. No, thank you, Jagdish. Or should I say Dhannobad? Kolkata, I don't know what the connection is. My mother says maybe you were a bong in your previous birth. I don't normally believe in rebirth and things like that in past life, but I feel that maybe there's some truth to it because, when I go to Kolkata, I feel like I'm home. Like during the lockdown one day, I turned to my husband and I said, I just realized I won't be able to go to Kolkata for a long time now. And that's something because, I've spent all my life in Mumbai and Mumbai will always be my love. But after Mumbai, I've spent the most amount of time in Kolkata because I've done a lot of films there. I'm very fond of the people. And that place just, I don't know, it feels like home. It just welcomes you, it embraces you. So, and because of the number of films I've done, I have memories in almost every street of Kolkata. So that's my love for Kolkata. And it all started with Ray, actually, Satyajit Ray, with his films. Very early on, I watched all his films on VCD, and those are the days of the VCD. And I wanted to work with him. I was in the 9th standard, and I wrote him a letter. And at that time, he got sick and was hospitalized. So I decided to keep the letter and not post it. I thought once he comes back home, I'll post it. And then he was honored with the Oscar for Lifetime Achievement. And then soon after he passed away. So I didn't get a chance to post that letter to him. But in my life, he's the only person I've written a letter to. So it all starts with Ray. And as far as learning and unlearning is concerned, I guess that's the only thing, because when you see people who've, and I'm not just talking about well-accomplished people, when I see people who are living full lives, I realize that all those people I look at and say, wow, for example, my own mother, she's going to be 70 in a year. She was a homemaker when we were growing up. But the moment we started going for classes and she had some time, sorry, she went back to music, something she had enjoyed as a kid. She started doing yoga. She's always been very dedicated about, keeping herself healthy. So she adapted to the change in her life very beautifully. And then, there were my sister got married and I got really busy with work. My father was busy with work. She started tapping into different interests. And she constantly does that, at some point of time, we shifted from Chembur to Khar. She knows more people in Khar than the rest of her family put together. She attends yoga classes, music, dance. She's into Isha yoga, and she volunteers at various functions. She's constantly wanting to learn. She leaves herself open to learn. So, we only measure success in terms of people who are, obviously successful. But for me, I've realized that success is when you're doing what you want to be doing. And all those people who are doing what they want to be doing are people who are constantly learning, unlearning, adapting themselves. So I think that is really key for all of us, especially with this world that's changing, constantly changing around us.
Thank you. Thank you. That was brilliant.
Thank you.
Great to talk
Thank
to you.
you. Same
Thank you
here.
so much.
Thanks.
I think we are in the last 10 minutes with of this, and many people have many questions, and I of course have. I want to do. It's been a dream to do maybe a rapid fire type of 5-6 questions.
Sure.
You know, yeah, but before that, I want to see if any of my other colleagues have any questions to ask.
Sure.
Vikram, Arvind, you guys are on call. If you guys have any.
Vidya, my name is Vikram, and
Hi, Vikram.
I'm calling from London. A South Indian actor. Thank you. Good. A South Indian actor, Mohanlal, he told me once that he considers acting as the ultimate form of meditation. Do you relate to that? Because I could not relate to that. Neither do I meditate nor I'm an actor.
Vikram, I would think that my very first film was with Mohanlal. When I spoke about the film that got shelved, it was a film called Chakram that I did with Mohanlal. I remember him telling me, I asked him, I'm a big Mohanlal fan. So I asked him, I said, what is your process? And because on set, I would not see him reading the script, or he was not really, he's not one of those actors who gets really stressed around the scene or anything. He's also brilliant, but he's just so calm. And then I told him, so what is your process? And he told me, he said, I learn up the lines, or I speak to the director, understand the character and all that. But ultimately, between action and cut, there is a divine energy that permeates all of us. Maybe that's why he called it the ultimate form of meditation, because, despite all the preparation, that moment, you have to be present in that moment. And for that, I think you have to just surrender. There is a suspension of disbelief, and you cannot question that. If you question it, then your acting will come across as acting, but that never happens with Mohanlal, because I think he just allows himself to be in that moment. I remember that. I always remember what he told me when I asked him. So I'm not surprised he called it meditation. I think it is a form of surrendering to the moment, and that's what meditation requires you to do, right? Just surrender.
Thank you.
Historic moment today. The word Vikram and meditation in the same line only could have happened.
Manish, this is Thakur. This is Arvind Malhotra. I am known as the Thakur in the group. So my hands are not working, so that's why the video is not on.
Hi, Arvind.
Hi, and I grew up in South Bombay, so I'll ask you one professional question and one personal question. So if you didn't become an actor or an actress, what career would you have chosen?
If I didn't make it as an actor, I would have been a frustrated actor. That's it. This is all I've ever wanted to do. So thank God it worked out for me.
No, that's amazing. And I was hoping you would answer it that way, because that's the only reason for success, right? Because you were so focused on what you wanted to do, the passion.
Right.
On a lighter note, just want to ask you, how are you dealing with your in-laws now, especially the ones that live in Kafpared, Meka Tower's Edge?
They are actually not in Bombay. So they have a farmhouse 2 hours away from Bombay. And the week before the lockdown, they happened to go there. And then they couldn't return to Bombay. And then we realized that is probably the best possible thing to have happened, because they, at least at the farm, they get to walk outside and they're amidst nature. So they're quite happy. But we visited them just 3 weeks ago and spent a week with them. So touch wood, they're well. Thank you.
Yeah, so I come to that building quite often. I have 2 doctor friends. Mukesh Batra lives in that building, as you know, and there's another Dr. Paresh Joshi. So I've seen you in the elevator once, but the next time I'll see you, I'll say hi to you.
Please do.
Thank
I
you,
think
Manish.
that'll be a while now before we get to.
CP and Anu were there, but I don't know. They somehow, CP is our CEO, CP Gurnani.
Right.
His wife, but I don't see them now. They're around. Do you like to talk? I don't know. I'm just leaving the floor. But otherwise, Manish, continue.
Just take CP, are you there? Doesn't look like.
Not there.
So Arvind, you probably took one of my rapid fire questions about if you were not an actor, and I'm glad that the answer that you got
that was Arvind's elevator pitch.
No, that is also why everybody now knows why our Sholay is not a hit, because we see each other's lines. So, okay, so we have 5 minutes to go. So,
but Manish, I want to know, you didn't tell me, who are you in the Sholay gang?
Oh, I am the clap boy. So
I thought you were going to say you're Jay.
Yeah, he is Jay. He is Jay.
He is Jay. That's
so much, Vidya, for that. Guys, please, it's not you. Vidya told me I am Jay, okay? Please understand.
I have a Gabbar Singh also. He's not on the call.
He's not on the call.
Oh.
Yeah, we call him, we sometimes call him the CEO. So.
Mr. Gurnani? Right.
Okay, so Privil, you have a question, or else I can run my rapid fire in the last 4 minutes.
Okay. Hi, Vidya. There's a question from my end as well. Yeah, my question to you is, my question as well as this question is from Bhavya Kalsi. 3 things you want us to remember during our acting in the role of life.
My God, Privil and Bhavya. I think that there is no other actor like you. There is only one you, and therefore there will be no other actor like you. Second, you always have a retake. It doesn't matter if you mess up a take. So if life goes wrong, there's always another chance.
Wow.
And thirdly, I'd say that, I'm trying to word this correctly, but films, happy endings are what work.
Whoa.
If you create that happy ending, it's in your power to create the happy ending. So that's what I meant to say. It's in your power to create the happy ending.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Vidya. You are indeed an inspiration, a fan moment, really. So we have Amrita here. She has a question for you on behalf of the Primetime team.
Wow. Hi, Amrita.
Happy. Yeah, somebody was trying to speak. Okay, great. Hey, Vidya, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I can't stop thanking you. I don't know why. Anyways, thank you so much. And so the question I would like to ask you is, how do you manage to keep motivated, to keep positive? What is your mantra when you're down?
I believe something that Mr. Abdul Kalam had said, that as long as the sun rises, everything is okay in the world. That there is hope. There's another day, and another day brings new opportunities. So that's what keeps me motivated. And I just look for reasons to smile and be happy. At the same time, it's not like I'm someone who's very sensitive and I cry a lot, I get angry. I don't keep it within me. I let it go. I express it. When you express it, I think it just goes. It loses its power over you.
Great. Awesome. I think I have my answer. Thank you so much, Vidya. Over to you.
Thank you, Amrita.
Yeah, so this one more question by Akash Rajkumar. Akash says, which role of yours has actually made an impact on your personal life and to your natural self?
Hi, Akash. I think every role has given me something. It's actually helped me discover a facet of myself. It's helped me heal, I think, some part of me. So every film has given me something.
Great.
So I think with that note, I would say, Vidya, what we normally, this is Krishna,
Yeah.
what we KG, normally what we are very punctual on time and all that, but with you, we will, with your permission, we'll go a little overboard and we'll let Manish Vyas do his rapid fire.
Rapid fire, absolutely.
We'll then wrap it up with that. Yeah.
Sure.
Thank you very much. Go ahead, Manish.
So Vidya, if I may, the first one, you already said if you were not an actress, what you'd be, but how would you describe yourself in 3 words?
I believe. Now you can tell me otherwise, but I believe authentic. It's my constant endeavor to be authentic, to be true to myself. Empathetic and loving.
Awesome. Great. Of all the movies you have done, which is your, and I know it's not easy, but your favorite movie quote or dialogue, not quote, and if you could please, if you don't mind, recite it for us.
Wow. I think it would have to be from The Dirty Picture, which goes, oh God, I'm forgetting the correct. It's basically I'm sorry if I'm not giving it to you exactly like it is in the film, but it says, हम जिंदगी एक बार जीते हैं तो 2 बार क्यों सोचना?
Wow. Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm so I don't know why I can't remember the exact dialogue. Terrible.
No, perfect.
Wow. Had you said hello, that was also okay.
Hello.
Whoa. Vidya, this is a question which I just stole from the list of questions I saw in the chat room. When are we seeing you in a web series?
Hopefully soon, and by soon I mean in a couple of years. I'm hoping to do Indira Gandhi as a web series, a biopic on her as a web series. Work is underway, but it's a long process, and then everything has kind of slowed down because of the pandemic. But hopefully, in the next couple of years.
Absolutely. Oh, fantastic. And I think you probably answered the question. Is that the next dream role that Vidya is playing?
Yeah, I'd love to play Indira Gandhi. I'd love to. Because when I think of a powerful woman, I first think Indira Gandhi.
I completely support. I think looking forward to it. I hope the next few months, years, whatever time it takes for you to shoot this goes away very quickly and you make it happen.
Thank you.
By the time we will ensure that the internet works quite all right. So,
right.
Maybe one last question for now is, you've traveled this brilliant journey as a person, as an actor, as a woman. Where do you see yourself in 10 years from now?
I don't know where I see myself in 10 months from now. Who knew 10 months ago that we'd be going through this? So I don't know. I don't have long-term plans really. I try and live on a moment-to-moment basis at the, plans for the next movie at the most. But beyond that, I'm not thinking. Absolutely. I'll let life surprise me.
Absolutely. By the way, we just got the line that you wanted to say. Jab zindagi ek baar mili hai to baar kyun soche?
Exactly. Thank you to whoever sent in the dialogue.
It was Vrinda, of course. So thank you so much. Vrinda. I think with that, I must share with you that you already had 125,000 fans in this company and their families. You now have these people as your fans for life.
Oh, how sweet. Thank you, Manish. And thank you, Manish. Thank you, Mr. KG. Thank you, Vrinda. Thank you, Jagdish, Amrita, Privil, everyone whom I spoke to, who wrote in. I couldn't respond to every message that came in. But thank you all so much. And Manish, it's been so easy to talk to you. So thank you very, very much. And I hope you bake a wonderful cake for your wife. And yes, please do watch Shakuntala 31st July onwards, whenever you want to, on Amazon Prime.
Vidya,
Yeah.
before we conclude, there's a fan of yours who is from the primetime team, a Tamilian girl with a Mangalorean heart. She says, you are awesome. This is a message from the entire primetime team.
Oh, thank you. Thank you all very, very much. God bless you. Stay safe. Stay well. And I must say, you all have a great sense of humor. I love the idea of the Sholay gang.
Yeah.
Vidya, this is
Yeah.
Krishna again. So,
Yeah.
very remarkable that you're able to rattle off everybody's name the way you have, right? That is Shakuntala Devi, right? I mean, your memory. The way that, if Manish asked you 2 questions, I've had many speakers answer the first one and they say, what was the second? You never did that, right? You remembered that. I think number 2. Number 3, you started your talk by saying gratitude, gratefulness. And then, there was meditation in your talk. There was, that shows a sign of a great human being besides being a great actor. So thank you and continue being that way. And God bless you.
Thank you.
Do well. Bless you with a lot of success. And
thank you.
Viewers of Primetime, wherever you are in the world, good evening, good morning, good night. Thank you very much for viewing Primetime at night.
Thank you so much, my fellow Cheburite. And please say hello to Mr. Gurnani for me.
All right, will do.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you, Manish.
Thank you, Vidya.
Thanks, Prabhu. Thank you. Yes.